What is happening, Secure Fam? It is your boy, your host with the most, Coach Sean, and we are here for another live. I am like first and foremost, quite late and behind on schedule right now. Your boy, um, your boy was definitely getting some stuff together, and working on some stuff behind the scenes. Took a little bit more time than I initially planned it. However, we are here live and in living color. All right. So, happy Monday to you. It is so good to see you. I hope your weekend treated you well. I hope it was refreshing. I hope it was a good time. I hope it was a good experience. Um, as people are coming in, first and foremost, allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Coach Sean. I'm a faith based relationship coach. And this is the Secure Corner Show, where we are navigating the rhythms of security, building secure, building security that lasts beyond marriage as we build healthier, happier, and whole relationships with ourselves, God, and others. Okay. And I'm really, really excited for just some Q&A and some time spent today. Um, and just to, I mean, even start kind of talking about some new things that are kind of going on around here in regards to some of the pivots that you're getting ready to see, and not necessarily explaining them. Just one particular series that I'm really excited about that kicked off yesterday. If you were on my socials at all yesterday, you would have seen it across the platforms. I know TikTok is funky. You can have abundance of followers and you just don't push out your content for some reason. But no, we are starting our dating securely journey. Okay, we are starting our dating securely journey. It's a dating securely vlog series that we are implementing into our content. If you know anything about what we've been doing over the last several weeks now, it's just been walking people through how to tangibly date, right? How to tangibly, applicably date in a healthy, secure way that really starts with you. We've talked a lot about how relationships are mirrors. We've talked a lot about a lot of different things. And I'm really excited about this series, this vlog series that we're going to be slowly dripping in content on, because I realized that there's a lot of people that have a lot to say on dating. There's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say about the dating pool. And they might even come in with their own story times and all the things. But no one is honestly, there's not a lot of people. I shouldn't say no one because I don't know everyone and what everyone's doing. But um, from what I've seen, there's very little to no people that are actually giving this from a lane of security, tangible, everyday nuance experience to dating and what it can look like. That's probably one of the biggest questions I get, especially doing anything related to dating. Man, coach, what does it look like? How do I date? I don't know how to date. I don't know how to do this and do that. And just coming off of the dating app dilemma series, it was pretty abundantly clear to me that it is really important to take you guys on my own journey, as part of one, continuing to help you guys see that this is not something that is random. This is something that is intentional. Uh, but two, to also put into framework what it really looks like to build a rhythm of security in your life that impacts so many different areas of your life, not just your relationships. And so, what better way to do that than to show you through a vlog format that we're going to be putting out vlogs of us just living, just doing life, taking care of business, regular days, but dating in the process. Okay. And I think you're going to be in store for a lot of good stuff. If you pay attention, if you know if that's your lane of content, if that's your type of content that you like to consume, I think you're going to get a lot out of that. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how long it's going to be. I wish I don't have the exact start date finish of how long these things are going to be. if this is even going to be a season format, whatever it is. Okay. I think that's kind of dependent on the support that type of content gets, but also, again, just to really show you guys, I think I've already gotten a couple pieces of feedback from some people so far, just from the quick clip that we posted yesterday. And it was really, really cool to see. There was someone who sent me a message on Facebook and was just surprised that men are actually out here intentionally dating. By the way, that just shows how piss poor um, a lot of these things are today. That like there's a genuine belief because of what's circulated on social media that there aren't men who are intentionally dating. That there aren't men who aren't looking for something intentional to build. I think that's amazing. And I think that also goes to show how much social media literally runs a lot of you guys' mental space rent free. Because when you first get on social media to start your day, all you hear is men bashing women, women bashing men. This couple just got a divorce. This couple just broke up. This cheating scandal, that cheating scandal. And yet no one is often talking about what is celebrating. Okay, maybe there is some of you who get on and you see the proposals, you see the engagements, you see all these things, but yet it doesn't click because you're like, I don't believe it can happen for me. Now, that is something that we unpack a lot deeper in programs and things behind the scenes. However, this vlog series, I think, can be something that is really impactful and beneficial to a lot of you, just so you can get a glimpse of what dating securely looks like. And it's not absent of rejection, as if you've seen the latest post on my page, you'll see. Okay, it's not about rejection. It's not about not being rejected or going through some of the similar things that other people go through. Okay, just like y'all talk about people who say they're ready and not. Trust me when I tell you, I get the same thing. Like it's not necessarily something that is night and day difference, other than for some of you, how you respond to these moments, how you respond to these pains, how you respond to these things that reflect mirrors to where you really are. Okay. And so I'm really excited about the series. I'm really, really excited to take you guys on that journey. Of course, everything else that we post here is not changing. I'm just adding that into the fold. Again, I don't know how long it'll be. I'm just gonna do it though, and y'all check it out. It'll be a series playlist on my TikTok. It'll be a series playlist I'll put on my YouTube. The more content we put out, it's going to be in short format. All right. And you guys are going to really get something out of that. Okay. So I'm really excited about that. As always, this is a safe live. This is a safe space, probably one of the safest spaces you'll be in all day. So be sure as you're asking questions, if you have questions, everybody remain respectful, remain helpful. And please be sure that if you have a question and you want to actually spend some time getting on to ask your question, hit that pink and blue silhouette over on TikTok. You'll spend a few minutes asking. I'll spend a few minutes answering. Okay. But nonetheless, go ahead and ask your questions in the chat to start things off. Same with Instagram and YouTube. Also, your boy has his books are open and available. Okay. And so I want you to go to the top of my page and go and click that Linktree link. All right. And click book one-on-one call, not qualification call, one-on-one call. And you can get on my books. Okay. We can get a call in as soon as possible. One conversation is sometimes all you need to be able to create the clarity you need to get from one place to another. It was a privilege to be able to sit with a couple clients this past weekend, and really, really continue to just unpack and process some things together. Huge breakthrough, huge perspective shifts. And I'm just keeping it a buck. Why stay in the lane of hurt and pain you've been in when you have an option? And that option is to invest in your healing. And that option is not to just have somebody talk your head off, but to give you application to move forward and out of your situation. Why be willing to stay where you are when you have an option to get out? Why? Okay. Why? Makes no sense. So do yourself a favor, go to the top of the page, click that link, book your session. And I'm excited to get you on the books and to connect with you and help you forward. Be sure to also click, I'm booking my session on Thursday. Let's go, Imani. Let's go. Lock in. So be sure to also on that same link, the second section is actually to get your free relational diagnostic. If you have not done that already, be sure to do that, because this gives us the first step to what it means to actually begin growing in the rhythm of security. Okay. And the first step is revealing, because we got to pull the cover back on so many things that your experiences have actually led you to see relationally that you've missed, or maybe just didn't think too much towards. And if there's one thing I've gotten from these, free relational diagnostics, not just how helpful they've been, but a lot of people have been very surprised at the fact that their struggles are a lot deeper than they realized. And that's not by accident. Okay. That's with intention, because a lot of these things are more deeper than we give them credit for. Again, it's not necessarily the breakup that ruined you, it's what it revealed in you. It's not necessarily the fact that you can't find a man and that relationships, dating pools, and beyond are just terrible. Okay. It's just the ones that you've chosen have continuously reflected something to you that you keep chasing other people to fulfill. That doesn't start with your external world being perfect. It starts with your internal world being aligned. I just said a word and I hope you didn't miss it. But this is the type of stuff that we're working on and that we're building. And so I need you to get with it. Okay. We are already almost 7 months done with 2026. And there's too many of you that came into this year saying the same old, same old. It was your year. It was your year to have the relationship. It was your year to have this, that, and the third. And yet it didn't happen. Not only did it not happen, but you continue to repeat the cycles that you said you were leaving in 2025, which is proof that a new year doesn't always mean a new you. Matter of fact, it's a new year, same you. We just have to approach this version of you different than what you've been doing previously to get you some results. Okay. But I'm not going to go too hard on that. All right. Go get your free relational diagnostic. Go get it. It's free. It's the resource that you need to be able to start moving forward and getting some clarity on some things. Don't wait. It's there for you now. Okay. YouTube, it'll be down in the description for you to take those steps. Okay. Let's see here. Anything else? Again, new content, yes, on the way. Yeah, that's it. If you guys are interested in getting into my secure program, now that is a good one. Okay. We're rolling out some things. It has been impactful, to say the least. Got nothing but good things from people who are already in it and getting results. And I want you to be able to get the same, to get you from anxious or avoiding attachment to secure attachment. Not by tips and tricks, but by nervous system modalities and gamified systems to tangibly see your healing. Okay. You don't have to bump your head. You don't have to guess. It's there and accurately tracked. Okay. Be sure to send me a message with the word secure. All right. And I want to get you going in that. So be sure to do that. That is on Instagram, TikTok, socials, all those things. We'll start that conversation. All right. I appreciate you guys for jumping in as you guys are flying in across the board. Be sure to answer these questions. Okay. Number one, what is your life satisfaction rate on a scale of 1 to 10? All right. Number two, what is your biggest relationship goal? Okay. What is your biggest relationship goal in 2026? And then thirdly, if you were to have the relationship you've always wanted today, would it be sharing any room with trauma or unhealed wounds? Okay. And if you don't have an answer to any of those questions and you would prefer to ask your own,
Hey, if money is tight right
speak now or forever hold your peace. I won't say speak now. You got all stream, but you get it. All right. Ask your own question and we'll get going from there. Okay. Man, I hope you guys' weekend was really well. Mine was great. And really, really enjoyed celebrating a good friend and brother of mine who is now married and got a new home. And so one thing about me, especially when it comes to building this rhythm of security, is being in positions to be able to celebrate other people for where they're going and what they're doing. Don't ever allow, and this is something that I see a lot on social media. Not to say that I don't think I've experienced this myself personally, but I've seen it a lot in friend groups and social media. Man, y'all, don't allow what you don't have to be such a focus that you miss celebrating people who have amazing things. Like, don't allow your singleness to cause you to be so bitter that you can't go celebrate somebody who is leveling up in life, getting married, doing amazing things. And it really comes back to the stories that we tell ourselves. there's a version of you who goes into that situation and says, "Ugh, another wedding. Ugh, another marriage. Ugh, another time I'm invited to a public setting and I don't have a wedding date. And I don't have a date with me. I don't have a prospect. I don't have this, I have that." And that is exactly what plays a role in the lack you keep seeing, because that's all you rehearse. Whereas if you actually went into those situations and said, man, this is actually a sign that God is in the neighborhood, that God is actually in the neighborhood and he's just in the business of blessing people. And who knows, I could be next. You might actually open your eyes to see people around you who actually make sense for you. Y'all, like, we really underestimate the power our minds and bodies have and the ability to be able to experience the life we want. I'm not saying it's going to happen immediately. I'm saying that it is something that is worth paying attention to, though. Like, some of y'all are so keened in on relationships being trash, dating being trash. Y'all don't even see people that you would be interested in connecting with. You don't even see them. It's because it's not that they're not there. You just don't see them, and you don't care, and that's a tough deal. And I think it exposes a lot of what's happening in the dating pool today, from a psychological standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, from an identity standpoint. And this space is designed to help us process all that together. Okay. Shout out John Keith. Oh, okay. Shout out to Jeremy in the building. Before I get to there was a statement made earlier I wanted to scroll back up to. Again, shout out to Imani who's booking Thursday. Y'all should follow Imani's steps and book your session. Go to the top of my page, click that link. Okay, one conversation is all you need to make a difference in where you are going. It's the difference between where you are and where you're going. It's oftentimes the difference between the loneliness, sadness that you're processing alone and the abundance that's literally right around the corner. One conversation, that's one seed planted that multiplies. Go to the top of the page, click that link, book your one-on-one call. Okay, let's do it. Dating is hard. Intimacy has always been off the table, especially since I'm no longer in school. Very interesting. Intimacy has been off the table. When you say intimacy, what do you mean? I guess I would love to know more on that. Dating. I don't want to play dumb and say that dating isn't hard, y'all. Right? Like, dating absolutely can be difficult, is challenging, but I think it's worth always asking, what are we considering to be challenging specifically about dating? Because typically there's a story we're creating that is actually more difficult than what we're actually saying is difficult. So, for example, if we're saying, going on a first date as part of dating is hard, getting to a first date is hard. And the story we'll say is because everyone we match with shares some conversation, but then it doesn't go anywhere. If we just leave it there and say it's hard and not question and be curious about what else it could bring out of us, the opportunity that's available to us, I think we'll just leave it as hard and we won't actually walk into it with fullness, abundance, and creativity. Like, if we tell ourselves repetitively that dating is hard because the economy is rough and everything is expensive, if I just leave it there, then I don't actually see that there's an opportunity to be creative with what I have and to remind myself that what's more important than the money spent on a date is the memories and feelings that were created with the person I was on a date with. Like, I think this season has been so special to me because as I'm doing more and more of my own dating and out here, like most of y'all, like a lot of y'all are, my creativity has just hit another ceiling, man. I'm gonna be honest. Like, it's hit another level. It's hit another level. And I think it's something interesting because we were talking about this in one of our streams last week. Wall Street Journal posted and published a writing that suggested that nearly half of Americans under the age of 30 are living with at least one parent. Okay. Now, this isn't a bad thing. This is the reality of the world we live in. But what this told me and screamed out to me is that I think because I can relate to it, there were so many things that I looked at about that. And I told myself, because I was living with the parents, because I was doing this and in this position and season of my life, that I'm not qualified to date. And what I had to learn was, instead of believing that being at a specific status or location made me qualified material to date, I had to start making adjustments and saying, well, one, there's so many things that I already carry about myself that qualifies me, that has less to do with finances, has more to do with the person I am, and knowing finances will come as they have. So now it's more about being able to find the lanes to be creative with what I have, so that the memories and experiences are just as good, if not better. Like, I don't I and I'm gonna be honest, y'all. Correct me if I'm wrong. For those of you who have been taken out on dates, for those of you who have been on dates, who have been in relationships, y'all can tell me. Okay. I have yet to hear a story of a long-term marriage or a healthy, loving relationship where what was remembered most about their dating experiences was the amount of money spent on a particular event or moment. I don't remember. I have yet to meet somebody that says, you know what, the highlight of us courting was when I took her, when I flew her out, or when we went to Turks and Caicos, or when we spent $1,000 at dinner, or whatever the case is. Right? It's 500, 400, 200. I think what I've listened to most and what I've heard is the small things that were creative notches that allowed both people to feel seen and wanted, because the effort was placed there equivalently. Okay, I don't even think that's a word. Equivalent effort was made. There we go. Y'all, it's a late day. And I think that is something that sticks out so much more when it comes to dating and things like that. And that's something that just comes to mind when I'm listening to that statement. Um, because now we're no longer in school, we're no longer in these positions. And I'm not saying there isn't a time where we have to prioritize some things. Like, hey, if you really, if finances are really tight to the point where it's like you don't even have, you know, 50, $100 a month, you know what I'm saying? Um, well, I'm not even trying to put any boundaries on that. I think you know what it's like to feel like, if you're struggling and scratching and clawing for every penny. If that's where you're at, that's where you're at. And we got to wait for a different season. Um, but I definitely don't carry the belief that you got to have hundreds of $1,000s in your bank account to qualify you to date either. That's crazy, right? And so, I think there's so much creativity that's out there, and that's available to be experienced and to double down on, that allows dating to be just as fun, just as healthy, and just as available. Um, and that's just something that came to mind there, for me. Coming back to the question earlier, shout out to Jeremy in the chat, and then it scrolled down. All righty. Again, I appreciate y'all for the love and the support. That you got a stable relationship in your life. It is safe to assume that. It is safe to assume that. How do I move forward from being a placeholder for a year and she went straight back to her ex? That's a challenging experience, Jeremy. Yeah, I would say this. Um mm, how do I move forward from being a placeholder for a year and she went straight back to her ex? Well, number one, I always start these conversations by understanding that it is difficult, because that is a challenging and almost immediate transition to be made, where there seemed to have been a connection and something that was building and going, only for that to turn around so quickly, to then that person walking away and leaving. And that's never a fun experience to have. It can be very heartbreaking, um, maybe unbearable to some extent. And there's a lot of stories, meanings that we can quickly rehearse and jump to in those moments, that our brains can jump to in those moments. And I just want to be able to validate that. That's a real challenge, and that's not something that you have to be alone in. I want to answer your question by saying this. I think the first thing that we have to always remember in any breakup, separation, or just loss of a relationship that we either wanted or were not ready for is we have to make sure that we come to a place of acceptance about what happened and the reality of it. Um, because sometimes the moving forward aspect isn't always so much about like we can't, like we just don't have the ability to move forward. Oftentimes we do. We just underestimate our ability to because we're so caught up on what could have been, and we're so clingy to potential, right? Potential that could have been created, the type of relationship that could have been created. And because we cling to that so badly, there's a whole nother world or reality of that relationship we've created in our head that we have to spend more time separating from than giving more and more energy to. And so um, I would say acceptance is the reality. Now, here's the thing, because now the question becomes, what are we accepting? I don't think we have to accept the story that you were the placeholder. Jeremy, I know that probably might sound backwards. And that's not to say that that's inadequate to, or that's not fair to how you feel, right? So you may feel legit like, yeah, I feel like a real placeholder. Whether, if that's something she actually said, maybe that's different. But regardless, there's some meanings that we give to experiences that we don't realize we have the ability to control. And I want to give you permission to say you have the ability to control the type of perspective you give to this. And so if we're going to lean forward with the placeholder belief, um, we really want to be careful with that, because we don't want that to start turning into ruminating thoughts of you're only good enough to be someone's placeholder, because that's how that seeps in. I think there's a different meaning that we can attribute to that experience, that it was a year of relationship. Clearly there was more that was wanted, not mutually though. But there's a story that we could give that gives us the ability to overcome this. And it's less about being a placeholder. It's more about someone simply not being prepared for what a real relationship with you would require. Right. There is a belief and story that we can lean into this by allowing ourselves to know that it's less about what you couldn't do, more about what she wasn't ready for or what she was unwilling to do, what her reservations were that don't have anything to do with us. Because my question would be, how do we know you were the placeholder? And if the only evidence we have is that she went back to her ex after the relationship, I'm not so sure that's enough evidence. I think that could easily fall into the category of more cultural beliefs and stigmas people say on social media than what the reality is. And so I would say there's a way that we need to engage with the shifting of the story. What are we going to tell ourselves that allows us to focus more on abundance in this situation? Because here's the thing, when we look at it and zoom in on the specifics and we say, well, we were the placeholder, um, and maybe there's a part of us that doesn't feel like we can actually get past this. I think my question to you is, what opportunities unlocked for you as a result of this relationship? Sounds backwards, sounds like a frowned upon question to ask, but what opportunities became available to you as a result of this relationship no longer being present? I would really ask that. Like, I'm gonna be so honest, in certain relationships that ended in my life, and the moment, was it hard to find the opportunities? Absolutely. But I had other people who were outside of me who were able to speak into my situation, which is what I literally want to do for each and every one of you in dark times and situations, because it's just helpful. Um, but when I'm on the outside looking in, it's easier to see the windows of opportunity where something can be cultivated as opposed to being in it, because we zoom in so far on the specifics, what we're without, what we will no longer have, what we'll miss. But if I look at this and I go, man, what was the opportunity? Man, for me, there were so many opportunities that I gained, opportunities to be able to focus more on my creativity, um, focus more on what I believe God was putting in my hands at the time to build and cultivate. Never knew it would turn into something like this, but it did. Right. This was an opportunity for me to get back into alignment and get this. sometimes we focus so much on who left that not only do we forget about who stayed, but we also forget about what their presence or absence of presence means for our future. And oftentimes what it means is that we are still available to find the person that doesn't want to leave. Because how much more difficult would it be to navigate separations of relationships, walking away from clinging to somebody who doesn't really want to be near us. Y'all, I've seen the movie Obsession recently. Crazy movie, by the way. Crazy movie. I have a lot of thoughts to it on deeper levels than maybe the average person. But one of the things that I thought was so striking to me in that film, outside of all the jump scares that they had in it, was this is actually a picture of what a lot of you believe love is. Y'all you may never say it, but it's what your actions and beliefs show. That many of you believe love is something that is as selfish and controlling as what was shown in that movie. To force somebody to like you and love you and manipulate feelings, all because of your fear of wanting of or not ready or not wanting to approach, to connect, to introduce yourself, whatever story that we'll create, we'll go the lengths to cling to somebody and cling to an outcome. And no matter how they feel about it, because we want it, we'll make it happen. And that is not love, that is selfishness. And I think sometimes when we cling to these types of relationships that once were, these relationships that we wanted a lot from, and we cling to that version of that person or that connection, we cling to it long enough and we'll move with selfish motives. We'll move with selfish motives to force other relationships to mimic the relationship we wanted with this person. We'll force that person that no longer wants to be with us, not only to give us answers, but we'll even put ourselves in predicaments and positions to be people pleasers, to get the approval of the person who said no, just so that way we knew we were fitting for their type of relationship. We were their avatar. We were that one. And we will ask all the questions. What was missing? What did I not have? And then we'll go get those things as if having those things is now what qualifies us to be connected to said person. And what we forget is that we slowly step out of position and we slowly step out of our identity to make room for that. That's not love. That's not love at any given moment. And so I think, man, I'm kind of giving a long answer here, but I really do believe moving forward comes with acceptance, allowing ourselves to feel the hurt that is present, because there's clearly a desire to have more with this person that they did not feel the same in the end. So we need to grieve that and we need to allow ourselves to feel that, but we also need to be able to look at this as an opportunity. What purpose does this pain push me into or make now more clear? That doesn't mean my pain is my purpose, but when I look at my pain through the lens of purpose, I see the pain a lot differently. There's got to be something that I can engage in here that's going to be beneficial for me in the long run, even if I can't see it now. And it takes time, but we want to engage with that, because I think it's less, the belief that you may not be able to move on has less to do with the actual ability for you to move on. It has a lot more to do with like just not wanting to, because I don't want to move on without this person. I was really locked in on creating a life with this person that's just no longer here. And I'm more afraid of what life will look like without them, or trying to meet someone new to fill their spot, or to fill a spot that I wanted to be filled within a relationship. So yeah, we really want to be mindful of those things, but I think the story that you tell yourself is really huge in this space. Um, and I think those are some interesting steps to take. And just know that it's not something that we have to do over time. Um, give yourself time and give yourself grace. We are all given the same grace that we love looking at our favorite biblical heroes uh, in scripture for having, for God granting, for God giving. We are given the same. We're given the same. And let's lean into that. Let's lean into that. I hope that made sense. If you have other questions, Let me know. Let me know. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Be sure to like the live, repost it, follow. All right. We're having a great conversation. And I definitely hope that this is helpful. The third question, yeah. So, what is the one if you had um the healthy relationship that you've always wanted? Would it be sharing any room with trauma or unhealed wounds as of today? If you were to have the dream relationship that you've always wanted today, would it be sharing any space with trauma or unhealed wounds? All right. Not black. I mean, share it in the chat, man. What's up? Uh, why don't guys commit? There's plenty of guys that commit. I think a I think a different question is why are the guys that you've engaged with haven't committed? And to answer that question, I think there's a plethora of different things. Um, but here's the thing too. I want y'all to I want y'all to think about this from this lane. There's a difference between a decision and a commitment. Okay. A decision is something that we are looking at and moving in the lens of a moment. Okay. When I make a decision to eat, I'm talking about a moment. What am I going to do and deal with now? Okay. When we're talking about commitment, this isn't just one decision. This is now something that has a long-term effect. So when I'm making a commitment, this is something that invites consistency, momentum. Commitment means that there is a longevity to this process. So whereas a decision is momentary, commitment is long term. And so with the idea of commitment being long term, a lot of people, not just men, but a lot of people, okay, but just to answer your question, in regards to men, the struggle to commit can come from a variety of different things. One, this person's lack of belief in their ability to maintain something for a duration of time. I've literally talked to plenty of people who have talked themselves out of the healing they know they need because they convinced themselves that they did not have what it took to show up consistently. So if you can do that, if you can do that for some healing that you need, Lord knows you'll do that for a relationship you don't need or a relationship you really want and you know you need. So there's a lot of people who will move in those spaces. There are definitely unhealed wounds and fears that are in the way. There's something that you're afraid of, something that you don't feel you could trust yourself to handle in the event that what goes wrong goes wrong. For a lot of men, the slowness to commit can sometimes come from fear of missing out, perception. Sometimes it can come from just not feeling like they'll have what it takes to really take care of the person that they want to actually do life with. Okay. There's a fear, a genuine fear that I don't have the means to be able to meet this person's demands consistently. What are we going to do with the money? What are we going to do with the house? What are we going to do with this, do with that? And so a lot of guys think from a logical financial perspective. And if it doesn't really make sense in that lane, they'll be slow to commit. That doesn't necessarily always mean that somebody like you're dating them, you're courting them, it's been some years. And that doesn't necessarily always mean that they don't want to marry you. I think sometimes they're just focused so heavily on one specific thing that they can lose sight of everything else. Okay. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different reasons why people won't commit. I think the biggest question that we should probably ask is instead of trying to figure out why people won't commit, because that comes from a very specific place. That question, I also realize why do guys not commit definitely comes from something specific for you. So I don't like throwing generalizations out there too often, although I did just throw a few. Okay. So one, that question comes from someplace. So if you're still in the chat, I would love to know where does that come from for you. But then secondly, I think a bigger, more important question is what is it about me? And not even necessarily from a perspective of what do I need to do better, do more of, um, but how does the abundant version of me respond to the dating scene in the event of somebody not wanting to commit? I think that's a better question, because if I recognize that I can move in abundance regardless, I think it's for me in this place in my life, it is less about why I'm not in the business of trying to figure out why somebody I'm connected with doesn't want to commit to me. They don't owe me that answer, and everybody has their reservations. And I could spend a lot of time in my head figuring it out, but that's just me wasting time. I am in a place in life where I recognize, especially in this last about month or so of being back on the dating spaces more consistently, when you move intentionally, you will attract intentionality. When you move more intentionally, you attract intentionality. And intentionality doesn't always mean that you're going to be in full agreement with the other person or you're going to want what they want. Intentionality is just as strong when you get to know someone and you learn that that isn't what you want. So you say no, and I'm going to keep looking. I think the beauty in my experiences of dating so far is there was a time where your boy was not as honest, direct, and I won't want to say confrontational, but just honest and direct about what I was looking for and what I was wanting. So if I was connecting with somebody and I noticed I really wasn't having a good time connecting with them, having conversation with them, I used to be the kind of guy that just let that stuff float. You know, I'll go some days without talking to you and maybe you'll get the message. That's very passive and sometimes passive aggressive. But when I started dealing with the internal wounds in me that led me to feel that way, because I was more afraid of rejection, perception, um, I was more afraid of just doing the hard thing and saying the hard thing. When I started dealing with that, all of a sudden my dating life shifted for the better, not for the worse. So now I'm the one that's leading the conversations in saying no. And guess what? When I've been doing that, I've also been attracting other women, okay? Where hey, we'll have a conversation, we'll connect, and then they'll figure out, man, this actually, nah, it's not for me. And so they'll let me know. That's a beautiful thing. And that's not because they have to let me know, but because I set the tone, guess what? That temperature is going to reflect. So that doesn't necessarily mean I won't ever come in contact with somebody who won't be honest, won't be upfront, or won't say anything in the event of not liking me. I'm sure that that's a very great possibility. But the chances of me experiencing that repetitively are lower and lower. And let's just say it did happen, it still isn't something that gives permission to throw me off, change my decision, or to change where I'm going. I'm choosing to be intentional regardless of what this other person is. And if they're not, it just lets me know where they are. And now I have other things to assess in order for me to realize, is this something I want or is this something I'm good without? And this is really, really important when it comes to dating securely. Um, so yeah, I just hope that answers your question. And maybe there's more to it. And I'm willing to unpack it. I could give a laundry list of why people don't commit. But I think a better question is, you know, um, what is the abundant version of how does the abundant version of you respond to the lack of commitment of other people in the future? Because that's something we can control. If I gave you a list of reasons why people don't commit, you'll probably start trying to fill in the blanks for whoever didn't commit to you. And that might not be the story that we really need to move forward with that gives us life moving forward. Shout out to Alfonso in the chat in TikTok. He says, I truly feel like not wanting to be a parent is making my dating life harder, but I'm not settling. Okay. Uh, Makes your dating life harder. I mean, I think we can be honest and say I think regardless of where you go, Alfonso, if you want kids, if you don't want kids, just like people who will be like, I don't want marriage or I do want marriage. I want monogamy, I want polygamy, like wherever, and regardless of how right or wrong certain things could be, I think anytime that you start having those standards that you're having set for what you're looking for in relationships, you should always expect the pool to be smaller. That's a good thing. I think we've romanticized options so much. that we feel like because we don't have as many options, that must mean that dating is that much harder. It doesn't have to be. I think less options are a good sign. That means I recognize I'm not for everybody, and I'm not going to put myself in position to be for everybody. I only want to connect with people who want to actually invest in connecting to me. And because I realize that that isn't everybody, I might as well go and get what I want and put myself in position to connect with people from a place of healthiness and abundance. So if you're in a place where you're saying, "Hey, I don't really want kids and I don't see myself having kids," there's a section of people who would agree. And it might change up a little bit about maybe who you find interest in and all those kind of things in terms of like age or level of status where they are. Chances are you're probably not going to date a single mother. Chances are you're probably not going to date someone who, you know, for sure wants kids. We pay attention to that. Okay. I'm not here to force you to have kids or anything. I just think it's something, with any description that we have in regards to our journey in dating and relationships, we should always be open to the idea that the more things that I set in place that I want to have in relationships, the more it's going to weed out those who don't match it. And that's a good thing. And that doesn't have to mean that dating is harder. We just have to be more intentional. And that's okay. Because the more intentionality you carry, I think the better the decision making can be. Again, shout out to everybody jumping into the live stream. I appreciate you guys a ton. Be sure to like the live, repost it, um, and go to the top of my page and book your qualification, or not your qualification call. I keep saying that. Book your one-on-one call. My books are open. I'm excited to sit with you. One conversation can make the massive difference in your healing. So be sure to do that and get your free relational diagnostic while you're at it as well. Okay. Um, Is it odd if a guy talks to a girl who seems interested in him and he doesn't mention he has a girlfriend? Is it odd if a guy talks to a girl who seems interested in him and he doesn't mention he has a girlfriend? Um, I mean, okay. Let me stretch. Hold up. Oh, hold up. Okay. Um, that stretch felt good. I ain't gonna lie. I think there's an assumption being made in that question that we have to pay attention to, and the assumption is that he knows she's interested in him. And I want to I want to leave room for the idea or perspective that maybe he doesn't know that she's interested in him. Guys are very simple, logical creatures. There are some things, ladies, y'all have the ability to pick up on that guys can't as fast. The signs, the subtle hints, you know, like believe it or not, guys don't necessarily take hints the greatest. And so if that is something that you're seeing that you have not spoken to, brought up to him, asked him about all the things, then what we're doing is we're making an assumption that he knows she's into him. And then that would make the story of him being like, "Oh, well, you didn't say you had a girlfriend," feel that much worse. So I think we have to be careful with that assumption. And I think anything to deal, anytime you can have an opportunity to destroy assumptions, we should. And that should happen with asking questions and leading in curiosity. Hey, I'm just curious. So does this girl not seem flirty to you at all? Like, am I tripping or is she like really all over you right now? Or is she's all in your bubble right now? So I think that's probably the first part I would go to. I think in the event of knowing and then there isn't a mention of having a girlfriend, that can be odd. Yeah, absolutely. It's odd, you know. If I had any subtle, I feel like for me, if I had any subtle hints that a girl was flirting with me, um, I would just subliminally throw in the fact that I have a girlfriend. Like if she was complimenting me on something, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, my girl loves them too." She'd be like, "Oh, like, yeah." But yeah, I think we just have to be careful with some of the assumptions that we're making there. Um and move forward from there. So, I hope that made sense. I have a girl. Actual intentional dating. I thought I was just scared to try again, but really I just have standards. There you go. There you go. Um hey, I appreciate you. We sing Bible. Thank you so much. Um let's see. I have a girl who keeps breaking up with me and keeps coming back. Um yeah, I like the thought there. We sing Bible, let her go. I think listen, I live by the aspect of this. I am not your light switch. What I mean by that is you're not just going to turn me on and turn me off whenever you so please. Um, there are a lot of relationships that can operate in a place where it's like on again, off again. But I think any relationship that is really on an on again, off again basis, I mean, it depends on the situation. It depends on the context. It depends on what's wanted, if it can work. I just know for me, um, there's a lot of other subtle factors that have to be considered in order for me to even say, hey, this is something I want to re engage in and reinvest into. Because I'm not going to keep going through the whole loophole cycle of us being together for a few months just for you to split the next time things get uncomfortable or you don't like something. That's just going to let me know that this probably doesn't make sense. And if you were to come back, it would be on a basis of one, does this even make sense for me? Let me remember the last few times that we broke up. Does this even make sense to come back to? And then secondly, I need to re-engage this in a different way because the version of me that you last broke up with is not the version of me that I am today. And the version of me I am today makes different decisions than the version of me then. Sees differently, hears differently, engages differently. So I'm not gonna force that. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of like the on again, off again. Listen, if you let's make your decision, and I want you to feel confident in your decision. And if your decision is you don't know, then uncertainty oftentimes is a reflection of unsure. Uncertainty is oftentimes a reflection that you don't really want this. Somebody who's unsure about you oftentimes correlates to them not wanting you because we know what it's like to want something. We all know in any given area of life, we know what it's like to want something and want it bad. We know what that's like. So I don't need to color code that. If it's not here, it's not here. But I'm not going to force that. And I think one thing that living securely has really, really brought in my life is the ability to let people go. If people want to, man, I was just watching a clip from an old Medea play, man. If y'all, I grew up on Medea plays when I was a kid, and sometimes seeing them on my timeline, it's just a breath of fresh air and so hilarious. Okay, and there was one on, I believe it's Medea Goes to Jail. She was talking to her nephew Sonny, Tyler Perry, obviously, who plays the character in the role of his I don't know if that's like his grandma. I don't know. But the he gives some thoughts to this and he says, yeah, if people want to walk out of your life, let them go. Right? Uh like ain't no need of us holding on. Ain't no need of us forcing this. Um and if we're gonna have this back and forth about staying or leaving, chances are it's probably best kept left. Because at least by then I'll be able to move intentionally with distance. And as I often say here, distance provides clarity. Distance provides clarity. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm not gonna hold on to you, and I'm gonna figure it out. We're gonna be all right. But yeah, I definitely don't think continuing that makes the most sense. Again, there could be some different nuances to that situation though. So if there is, feel free to share. I appreciate you dropping that in there. Thank y'all so much for the follows as well. Y'all be sure to go get your free relational diagnostic. go book your qualification call. That's at the top of my page. One conversation is sometimes all you need to make the biggest difference between where you are and where you're going. And you guys will be surprised what 60 minutes can do. Okay. You don't have to stay in your anxiousness. You don't have to stay in your pain. You don't have to stay in your heartbreak. You don't have to stay in the ruminating cycles and thoughts and tears. You don't have to do that again tonight. There's a way that you can have an option and a solution ahead of you. Let's do it together. All right. I'm excited to see you on the books, and then get your free relational diagnostic through the same link as well. Shout out to Ethan who asked, why is everyone avoided nowadays? Man, that's a great question. Probably feels like a lot of people are more avoidant. I would say, again, the mixture of people that are anxious and avoidant, more people, actually more of this population is anxious than they are avoidant. If we're just going by statistic and numbers and actual data, like more people are anxious now than they are ever before. Plethora of things to deal with that. However, I'm not saying that isn't necessarily that doesn't mean that there isn't a rise of avoidant behavior either. And well, I think one, people are recognizing more and more of like language behind attachment styles and things like that. I just think people are oftentimes not moving in legitimate self-awareness behind these things. It's one thing to reflect on the fact that you have a poor attachment style and it needs healing. It's another thing to become aware of the moment you start falling into the trap of walking away, slamming doors, ghosting, wanting to self-sabotage, wanting to distance yourself from people, and you catch that, and now we're able to do something about it. A lot of people are really good at reflecting. Not many people are as self-aware as they say they are. Y'all, you would be surprised sitting in this seat on this side of the screen how many people come to me and tell me all their business and then say at the end, I'm really self-aware. You're not self-aware. You're very reflective. You're very reflective. You've reflected on the different decisions and pains and moments of self-sabotage and what you do in rejection. You're really good at being able to say before the conversation ends, you're out of there, deuces. You're really good at talking about how quick you are to cling and how hypersensitive you are, but you have done nothing about it. That does not equate to self-awareness. And self-awareness, okay, self-examination is very important when it comes to being able to live a life of maturity and security. A lot of people know why they're doing things. They just aren't doing anything about it to change it. And that's a problem. And so I think a lot of people fall under that category. I think a lot of people are possibly avoidant. Like anything else, I think it's just fear. Fear runs the avoidant just like fear runs the anxious. So there's some type of fear that's in the mix and in the midst of this person getting to where they want to go, doing what they want to do, showing up in a way that makes the most sense. And so that's what's really controlling them. A lot of stories created in your head, okay, that leads you to doing that. And what people don't realize too is that they have the ability. What a lot of people don't realize too is that they have the ability to switch these things. Like a lot of people have just decided to identify themselves with the attachment style that they carry in a very low and negative manner. This is just who I am, and this is all it'll be. And a lot of people don't realize that they have an option, or they do learn they have an option, but they just choose to stay in that arena of avoidance, anxiousness, fear, all the things. And I'm not saying that this, again, I'm not speaking on a broad term thing, right? So I know that there are legitimate diagnoses of anxiety and all those things. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about people who are really good at intellectualizing their behaviors and are waiting for somebody to come save them instead of looking at what the mirror is reflecting in them. I'm talking to those of you who go from therapist to therapist, coach to coach, counselor to counselor, and you're addicted to therapy. You're addicted to therapy, and you really don't want the healing work and help you say you do. Those of you who started out the beginning of the year saying that you were going to have the best and healthiest relationships, that you was leaving all that in 2025, you was leaving all that toxic bull junk in, and it's still with you today. Ain't nothing changed because you ain't changed. because you thought another girl's trip was gonna do it. You thought another job and more money was gonna get you right. You thought getting more views and likes was gonna get you right. Maybe the facial reconstructive surgery or a butt lift was gonna get you right. And it didn't. It didn't. And here we are, continuing to blame everything else externally instead of looking at it and going, man, but this stuff is revealing some stuff in me that's been in here and it's just making it louder and louder. And what I've noticed in this space is a lot of people are attracted to other people who make them feel comfortable in their mess instead of actually getting you out of it. I'm not one of them. You're not going to like it over here. If you just want somebody to validate you and validate you all day, but not actually help you through what you're stuck in, you're not going to like it here. You're not going to appreciate it. So there's a lot of reasons, I think, but man, fear definitely leads the way. And it's a challenging thing in reality to experience. But again, instead of trying to change everybody else from being avoidant or anxious, let me do the work so that way I know I can trust my ability to choose healthily. Don't that sound like a better option? Let me just be able to rest and further in my security rhythm so that way I can trust my ability to decide healthily instead of allowing somebody else's avoidant tendencies to be something that drives me out of the peace I've been given. Does that make sense? Am I wrong for thinking about seeing other men? I'm confused. Are you wrong? Why would you be wrong? Where does that question come from for you, Chocolate? Where does that question come from? That would be my I just sent an invitation and I did not mean that. So don't accept that. Hold up. Uh okay. Especially just keep praising God. Only way we will be respectful. Everyone has their own walk. All right, Thomas, I hear you. Um yeah, true story. Yeah. Shall I give up because I give my partner more than they give back? Um, should you give up? Um, I mean, there's a lot of other questions I would ask, like, how are you feeling as a result of giving more than what they give? And then what are you measuring that by? Would be my follow up questions. How are you feeling in the event of giving more than what your partner gives? And then what is, how are we measuring the amount of which you're giving? What exactly are we using to keep record? That's kind of what we're doing. But what are we engaging here to keep record with that? That would be my follow up question. Fictionalized. Can't be afraid to hurt people's feelings if they keep trying to convince me. I block them. Okay. I have my thoughts on blocking. Uh, but I can move on. Uh, what should you do with a girl if you get friend zone? Let it be. Let it be. Can a man truly love you if he pays your bills but never meets you? Uh, he never meets you? Nah. Um, because you gotta think about it, Chocolate. Like the epitome of a relationship isn't what somebody can always do for you. Um, being able to have your bills paid by somebody, but never being in their proximity to connect with them, to sit with them, to do life with them, to build with them, to love them. Um, I think that will always be uh it will always be a challenge. It will always be a challenge. Um, it's kind of like it's basically almost like having well, no, I won't go that far. But yeah, I'll just leave it there. It will always be challenging. I think true legitimate love when we're talking about relationships and connections, is not just based off of what somebody can do for you. We always say love is an action, and it is. Love also finds a way to share common space and proximity with the people that you're around. Because sometimes what does so much better than your ability to pay for something of mine is to be here with me. I think we have undermined and underestimated the power of presence more and more because we're so used to having everything at the palm of our hands so fast and in a hurry. But I think there are some things that presence is able to give that money just can't buy. And if I can't be in your presence, if it's impossible to be connected to you in your presence, there does come a place in time in your life where the money, the bills being paid, and all the things you're going to slowly stop caring so much about. Not because those things are unimportant, but because it's just another way for this person to not stay connected to you. Like, if you guys have ever been unfortunately dealt with a parent that never connected with you but sent you gifts, did you feel loved? They sent money. They sent a box once a year. They dripped you out with the flyest shoes and all the things. And one thing that I will always remember from being able to counsel and coach these people and just even be around them and befriend them is hearing them talk about how they were never that parent wasn't really there for the smaller moments though. Like, I remember more of those moments where that person wasn't there when I was crying tears silently. I remember they showed up at my graduation, but they weren't there at my T-ball game. Like, the children don't remember how much money you spent on them. They remember the time spent. They remember the moments invested, the memories made, the feelings cultivated, because that's what carries. And I think that's the same sentiment that is given with romantic relationships too. We as people don't necessarily remember so much about what someone did for us more than we remember how they made us feel. How you can only make somebody feel so close to you at a distance. And there are some seasons where it has to suffice because of certain things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the entire relationship ought to live on the phone. At some point I got to see you. At some point I got to see you. At some point I got to be in your presence. At some point we have to share the same room and space together. You know? So that's why I say there are some seasons where it makes sense, depending on where the season of the relationship is. What to do when you're dating and avoiding who's about to discard you? How to prevent it? So I want you to really think about that question. I think preventing the discard, um, that's a unique question. I think the scary part is that we're trying to prevent something because we don't trust our ability to handle it well, not because um like we're actually trying to turn this around into some kind of favorable moment where the relationship lasts or where everything can still be at peace. I think instead of trying to stop the discard, number one, realize that we're creating scenarios in our head based off of what we're reading in between the lines. So some of that is anxious anticipation because when you're saying it's about to be a discard, truth is a discard hasn't happened yet. And so we're trying to prepare for something that isn't here. And oftentimes anxiety rules in those spaces. Number two, I think sometimes some of the best conversations that you can have with somebody is asking them directly with what's on your mind and heart to process those things, instead of trying to read between the lines and anticipate and react based off of what you anticipate. Um, but then thirdly, I would say, as you're dating this person or dating someone else who falls into this category, I really think we have to be honest and allow this to be a mirror of some kind. I say this all the time: relationships are mirrors. We have to allow this to be a mirror because what I'm hearing in that question is, help me prevent this so I don't have to go through the pain of a discard. And I'm saying there's a world where instead of trying to fight so hard to prevent something like that from happening, we're okay regardless of if it happens, because whatever this person does, it does not have to determine my value or what I'm available for or who I am. And that can be harder. That can be harder to do off rip because this might be more of a beginning conversation to build that muscle. Um, but yeah, I think to prevent a discard, I'm not even in the business of trying to prevent that. If that's what they do, that's what they do. My question is, what other meaning can we attribute to this that doesn't necessarily have to equate to certain verbiage like a discard? Can it still be a discard and that's just an honest truth? Sure. But sometimes we use this language and then it keeps us stuck, feeling like we can't move forward, we can't heal, we can't move on, we can't handle it. And I'm in the business of my life at this point, and this is what I'm trying to get everyone who listens and who pays attention to get to this place. Not because I think I'm just living this pristine life, but no, I just recognize that in a tangible way, when I talk about the freedom Christ gives, He's already won it when it comes to your salvation. But the freedom that we're able to experience in relationships with one another, with where we are in this life, the eat, drink, and be merry that Solomon speaks so highly of, man, this is what puts us in position to tangibly move in that. And we don't get to those places without experiencing some things that we're trying so hard to run away from because we don't like how bad it feels. And I think that is actually where the development is cultivated. I'm not saying we turn around and we go into it with a smile on our face. I'm not saying we look forward to discards. Oh yeah, I'm waking up today, avoid an attachment. They're gonna throw me away. Nah, I'm just saying let this be a mirror. What is this exposing in us that we're doubting more than really what's happening? Um, because I really wouldn't know what to tell you on how to prevent a discard. I don't know. Um, it's kind of like asking also someone who is just set in stone on breaking up with you, how do I prevent the breakup? Well, if they're set in tone, if they're set in stone and have made a decision about you, there's not much you can do to change that decision. So it's almost like the inevitable in that situation is happening. The question is, how can we better handle it? And how do we and how else would we know it how to better handle it until we actually experience it, in this particular direction? I know it's not preferred and I know it still sounds dangerous, but um I just want you to use that as a mirror because I think there's this potential discard again that hasn't happened yet, by the way. So we're still talking about something that isn't there. So I think that's fair too. But you know, in the event of somebody doing that to us, what do we believe that reveals about us? I think that's what we really want to deal with. I think that's what we want to deal with. Oh, okay. So I hope that made sense. What's up, Dev? Good to see you. Good to see you. Hope all is well. I hope that made sense. Only block after I explain why we aren't compatible, and they keep trying to convince me we could. Yeah, Barb, I actually disagree on that being a blocking and reason for blocking. Again, I also know that this is not a very receptive view on blocking. It's your phone. You pay the bill. You do what you please. I know that's possible too. Um, I just think like blocking is an emotional decision, and sometimes we use blocking as a means to hide behind this facade that we're actually over somebody, past somebody, or even in this case, thinking um, that this person is truly bothering us or harassing us. Sometimes it's not even that deep. It's just like I don't want to see him no more, and I could care less. Now I get it if there's a moment where it's like now, in your case, you did mention you only block after you explain why you're not compatible, and they keep trying to convince me you could. Um, yeah, I mean, I think if you've stated your now again your situation, I do want to reread that because maybe that's a different direction than where I was initially going. Because I do think there can be a world where you say, "Hey, yeah, so I've already stated I'm not interested. Please stop texting me. I'm okay. I'm moving on. Wish you the best." And they stay doing that. I get you. Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. I mean, I've stated what needed to happen here, and it's not happening here, and you clearly aren't really willing to honor and respect what's created here. So yeah, you straight. Yeah. And that sounds more of where you're coming from. I think when I hear people say and talk about blocking, and it's not in the context of anything harassment level, sometimes I can definitely be quick to be like, oh yeah, that's definitely an emotional decision. Just like we might block an ex, we might entertain somebody. They said they're no longer interested, so we'll block them. Like the block list is long, and it don't have to be. And I think sometimes we convince ourselves that the blocking is needed to get over it, but out of sight doesn't always mean out of mind. That's why you block people and you still stalk them on your socials. That's why you block people and you still ask around, how are they doing? That's why you block them and you said you were over them, but yet you're still at crying at night, wondering what went wrong and how you could have done differently. Because it's not out of sight, out of mind. That doesn't apply there. Why is love not enough? Well, I always help my girl with her mental health, but whenever I vented on her, she just ignores it. It's a challenge. Uh, how can I move on from someone that loved me for a year? Yeah, so there's a lot of questions there. I definitely encourage you to book a call. Click the link in my link tree in my TikTok bio. Book one-on-one call. Be glad to sit with you and unpack a lot of these things. Sounds like there's a lot of questions that you have from this space. Um, and I mean, again, I think anytime that we're talking about getting over a breakup, we got to give ourselves time to grieve what was there and what was wanted, so that way we can let it go freely and fully. Um, and I mean, I think that has a whole process and application in of itself. But then again, I think too, this is something that I often create. Okay, when it comes to breakups, and I'll bring out my handy dandy whiteboard again, um, because this is actually something that's gonna be really helpful. And then I got time, I think, for one more question that I saw in the chat, and then we're gonna wrap this up. Trying to keep these to an hour, so I appreciate everybody dropping in. Again, go to the top of my page and book your one-on-one call, so that way we can actually get you the direction and healing you need. Okay, and also get your free relational diagnostic. That is also in the same link tree, second link that you'll click. That is actually the beginning step to moving in security that you're called to, and that's always there. We're just now tapping into. Remember, y'all, secure attachment is not something we arrive to, it's a rhythm that we build. And this is here to help us design that. So, right now, what I have in front of me, and I'll make this a little bigger, is like a little triangle that just shows and explains the experience, meaning, and action that we have towards everything we do. And even when it comes to a breakup, I don't care if it's a year, 5 years, it's a 20-year marriage, and then it's a divorce. Okay. Um, so what we have here, um, and I'm writing this out here, right? What we have here are many different actions that we can create or that we can move by, and then we're in a response to a breakup that we experience, a loss of relationship that we experience. Okay. And in no way, shape, or form is this designed to take away. All right. In no way, shape, or form is this designed. All right. I'm trying to. Okay. Okay. I just, there we go. Okay. Maybe this will work. I just don't like this light in the way. All right. Anyway. So this isn't to say, okay, that, you know, we're not supposed to feel these things. All right. Shout out to TikTok. It's not to say that we're not supposed to have emotions or not feel these things. All right. Of course we do. That's how we heal. All right. The biggest thing that we have to recognize, though, is that we are in charge, oftentimes, of the actions that are produced from various experiences that we have, whatever we would write in this center. Okay. So cool. We can definitely say that, the experience is the breakup, the loss of the relationship. This person no longer loves me, all the things. Okay. Instead of trying to change this, okay, instead of trying to change that, I should get a different marker, huh? I'll just stick with my green. All right. Instead of trying to change that, all right, we actually have to address the story that is attached to it that allows us to produce a different action. So if I were to paint this a little bit clearer, all right, this is something that we do all the time. Welcome to the whiteboard sessions. All right. So this is kind of where you want to be. All right. You want to be on the top of the mountain. And this kind of signals you being over your breakup. You want to get over your breakup. Okay. You want to get over it. This is where you want to be, but this is where you really are. Okay. And being at the bottom here, the difference between being at the bottom and staying here and then getting to the top, which is where you want to be, isn't that the breakup does or doesn't happen. We can't change that. But that's just an external situation that oftentimes is out of our control. The difference is the story we say, the meaning we give. The difference is what we rehearse that either gives us permission to scale up the mountain, okay, or that has us falling down the mountain. So if the mountain is breakup and that's the experience, that's what we're having. The story that kept you down here for many of you, okay, is things like, I'll never be loved again. This was the best it will ever be. Okay. Stories like, I'm not enough. All right. Stories like, marriage isn't for me or ain't for me. I'll be alone forever. All right. Might not be able to see it. It's at the way bottom. I'll be alone forever. Right. You'll tell yourself all these stories and it's very hard to overcome the breakup, but we'll say we are even from these states. But that's just because, well, I blocked them or I'm acting nonchalant. Here's another story you'll tell yourself now because of all the effort I put in that previous relationship that led to a breakup I couldn't control. Now I'll tell myself I'm low maintenance. I'm low maintenance. I don't require much. That's cap. You're just afraid that if you started actually allowing yourself to love this person and share your needs and allow this person to show up for you, you would be considered too much. It's not because you're low maintenance. You're not really low maintenance. There's a lot that goes into taking care of you. There's a lot that goes into meeting your needs. There's a lot that goes into doing life with you. You just don't want to be seen too much. So you would rather shrink instead of be where you are and allow someone to show up for you and love you healthily. And be okay if this person is like, I can't do that. Therefore, it doesn't make sense for me to be here. Because you're not at a place where you're at peace with all the no's for the one right yes you need, because you only need one. Right? So these kind of stories and beliefs is what we'll rehearse. I can't get over it. Okay. It feels so crap. It feels so trash. This is unbearable and I can't get by it. Versus the person that's at the top. Well, what's the stories the person at the top has to rehearse that gets them over the breakup? How about this? How about that? Y'all can't see that. Y'all probably can't see that up there. It says this, where we at? This too shall pass. A belief that this too shall pass. Okay. What about, I wish my markers weren't this bad, y'all. I really do. What about the belief that there's more? Okay. What about the belief that I'm wanted, chosen, and loved as I am? How about the belief that I'll never be more loved than I am right now? I'll never be more loved than I am right now. How about this person's focus, right? Because again, with the experience, we're talking focus, okay? And then your focus is either on lack or abundance, right? Talked about this before. Your focus is either on lack or abundance. And where you put your focus on is going to determine your action. And is also going to what? Fuel your story. So this person that's at the top that you want to be at to overcome your breakup, maybe it's not so much that you need to start maybe thinking about these things, although they're helpful. Maybe it's just I need to start showing gratitude to what I already have. Maybe I need to start showing gratitude to who stayed. I get so caught up on people who leave, I forget about those who stayed and stayed for the same reasons other people left. The same reason this person was like, that's not for me, is the same reason why somebody else looked at me and said, I want all in. What's the difference? It wasn't anything about me that changed externally. I'm talking about the things that are fair. I'm talking about the things that are worth building on, that are healthy, that are stable, okay, that are in process, developing. All those things are beautiful. But that's why we can have this. This is why we have different, experiences with each other. The same experience somebody had with you that caused them to go, I'm good, is the same experience somebody else had and said, man, I've been praying for you. But what do? It's the breakup. It's the loss that made us reconfigure everything. And now instead of just staying in our position, we would rather change it up to try to keep the person that wanted to leave. When people want to walk out of your life, let them go. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. Believe them. So believe them. And sometimes we're so caught up on who's walking away, we've made the breakup more about about them walking away without realizing that it's actually about us needing to get back into a realignment with our identity, reframing the meaning and story to the experience that leads to different actions. I'm not saying you won't cry your tears. I'm not saying you won't be frustrated. I'm not saying you won't have moments where a song that y'all used to dance to comes back on the radio and it's something that takes you back to a moment that you cherished with this person before they decided to walk away. I'm not saying even for those of you who feel like you're going through a breakup and you ain't even date this person. It was all potential. You was locked in on what could have been. And all of that came crumbling down fast and in a hurry. This person seemed too good to be true. And just like that, you were reaffirmed and proven right that they were. Even to the relationships that didn't really mount up to much, this still fits because there's a story you're telling yourself that I don't know if the version of the relationship I wanted with this person could ever be experienced with someone else. As if they're the only person that you can create this with. And here's evidence that they're not, because it came out of you. The abundance, the love, the desire, the reason why we can be confident that you can experience the love that you really want with someone else is because it's already in you. And guess what? When you get to the relationship, it's coming out of you in overflow. It's not that the relationship itself created it. No. It was already in you. This person just exposed it through the behaviors, connection, love, affection, and it just started overpouring. That love has always been there in you. It's always been in there. That version of you that's not anxious and that's not living off anxiety has always been there in you. The security that you're trying so hard to strive for, do more for, arrive to, it's there in you. We're just experiencing different external things that are exposing where there's areas it still needs to develop. So we let that happen, and then we put in the work and effort to move forward with the healthy rhythm. Okay. So your story is often determining that action. If your story is I'm not enough, guess what? Your action is self-sabotaging dating. Your action is leaving people before they reject you. Your action is wallowing and throwing your life away on one person that did not want you. Your action is to predetermine everybody else to leave you. You don't even get into relationships fully. You'll tell them to their face, you're going to leave me before things get started. So we might as well just not even do it. We might as well not even go there. And then here's the person up top that you really want to be. That's moving in gratitude. Okay. I'll never be more loved than I am right now. This too shall pass. The emotions show up. They ride the waves. They're okay. What is the action for this person? Man, they're still looking to date. They're dating healthily. They believe marriage still exists. They believe in becoming the right spouse. They're enjoying life as is, having fun in their singleness, and fun in their singleness doesn't have to relate to them raising their body counts. Okay. Fun doesn't have to relate to you being wild and for the streets. You can have fun and be cool too. This person's eyes are open to be able to see what's available for them, to see the value and the lessons and the relationships that have come and went. And get this person up top here, the action is not allowing the external to literally cause them to lose sight of their identity. Security. Security. That allows them to be able to move even if the external doesn't match. Their internal world leads the way. I'm okay regardless. I choose me regardless. And I'm going to keep on the path that I'm on regardless. That's what this brings about for this person up top. And that's where you want to be. But we're trying to get there with these kind of stories that are ruminating in our minds. We can't do that. We can't do that. We got to switch the story and we got to rehearse something different that gives us the energy to climb up this mountain and over the breakup. That's what we got to do. Put a one in the chat if that made sense. Put a one in the chat if that made sense. That's what we have to engage in. And the reason why I answer that question the way I did, fictionalized, and anybody else who could benefit from that, okay? The reason why I did that is because a lot of times we were so caught up on trying to prevent certain things from happening. What if this very thing that we're trying to prevent from happening, like the breakup, the discard, this person walking away, what if that is actually feedback for us to look at and say, yo, I'm really not okay if this person walked away. And that is something I need to look at instead of trying my hardest to keep them, even if that means going the lengths of people pleasing and becoming somebody I'm not. Because then when I start stepping out of values and all those things, guess what? They're not even making a relationship with me. They're making a relationship with a version of me that is fake. So sometimes we have to ask ourselves, who are they really connecting with? You, or just what you would, or just maybe a version of themselves, a version of you that they've created in their minds that isn't healthy. Okay. All right. Final question. All right. I'm going, why is love not enough? Well, that's a great question so far. So I think when you say things like love is not enough, it's because at the core, when a lot of people say they have love for someone, what many people are describing is some sort of feeling. And we have heard too many times, and a lot of times, obviously, where we recognize love as an action. Jesus led in that with his death on the cross, his resurrection from the grave. Okay, like love is an action. He leads with that. But even you can attest to, and maybe not you specifically, Sophia, but those of you who are listening, even you can attest to. You may say you got love for Jesus, but there are some things that you still do, some behaviors you still exhibit, some programmings you still carry that don't reflect anything that the very Savior you say you love operates in. Right. And so when we say love is not enough, okay, just because you say you love someone doesn't always guarantee that you're going to do right by them. Because everybody is coming into a relationship with various different lenses in which they view love through. Right? Somebody might be saying they love you and they are equating this love to the way that they love pizza. Whereas somebody else is saying they love you and they're equating this love to some form of unconditional love. Two different contexts of love, two different viewpoints of love, two different perceptions of beliefs, foundations of love. And so what we're trying to get at is understanding that love isn't enough. Therefore, what is enough is when that love is not only followed by action, okay, but it's also me being willing to continuously show up for me so I can show up for us. Both ways. Showing up for me so that I can show up for us. A lot of people say they love them and it comes with conditions. That's why love isn't enough. You don't just go into a premarital counseling session and when they ask the question, why are you getting married? And you say, because I love them. Somebody who has had experience in marriage is going to look at you and laugh. They are going to look you dead in your face and laugh. And I would too. Because you're going to find out real quick. You said you loved them and the vows you meant at the altar. And there's going to come a day where they piss you off so bad. They piss you off so bad. You don't give two fluffs about nothing and nobody in that house, in that room, in that bed. You don't care. Not having it. I'm not with it. Real irritated right now. And in those high moments of irritation where it's inviting you to look inwardly, what's the first thing you're going to want to do? Blame them, blame her, blame him, blame what they didn't do, blame what they could have did better. Criticize, criticize, criticize. So when we say love is not enough, just because you say you love somebody does not always mean that you will be willing to do what's right by them. Should that be? Yes. Is it? No. So we have to be willing to make the effort and daily decision to show up for me so I can show up for us. Because sometimes love isn't really as beautiful bouquet of rainbows and all that kind of stuff like we paint it to be. Too many people get on social media with a mic and say love is easy. Some people say that some people do that. It's like, love not easy, but it's work and it's worth it. Shout out to Dr. Elijah in the building. Shout out to my man, Brandon, the newlywed in the building, my guy. Appreciate you a ton. Appreciate you a ton. Jason, why can't I let go of the person I still like, even though she showed she doesn't like me no more? There's a lot of different things, man. I think there's a lot of different potential in, well, I say there's a lot of clinging to potential. Okay. There's a lot of clinging to what you envisioned with them. Oftentimes when we're in relationships, I say this often, just like we miss 100% of the shots that we don't take, we miss 100% of the relationships we're not present for. And what many people don't realize when they find themselves at this place where they are not able to let go of someone, even though they showed that they aren't liking them anymore, okay? There is a part of you, this is unspoken, but there is a part of you that possibly was not as present as needed to be in that relationship. That's not to say you're the cause for the relationship separation. I don't know the details. But I'm saying that because so there's a part of us that wasn't as present with that relationship. And so it's showing up in the form of grieving or grief that we're carrying towards it. I'm not done with this relationship because I feel like there's more. That's kind of the sentiment. But sometimes the only reason we feel like there's more is because we weren't really present fully with what was there to some degree. Because in order for more to even be experienced, both of us have to be on the same page, willingness and readiness. And when somebody calls it an end and the other person is like, but wait, there's more, that more is oftentimes connected to a version of the relationship that has yet to be and can easily be tied back to something that we were not possibly present for in the duration of the connection. So it's a double whammy in the form of grief that showed up in this relationship. And so now what are we fighting? We're fighting acceptance. We're fighting it because we don't really want it. And we're afraid of the feeling and the overwhelm that could happen in the event that we finally accept that this relationship is no longer here. Because then if I accept it, then that means there's no more of this, there's no more of that, there's no more of that, there's no more of this. And depending on how long the relationship has been, well, dang, our bodies have just grown so used to the pattern of being around this person that I don't necessarily know if I trust myself to be able to handle what this life would look like without them. Not to say that we won't be able to see that, because we will, but it'll be something that we will gradually grow in seeing in various different lanes. So the idea of not letting go or not being able to let go, one, you can let go. Two, we're just struggling to because of not just the meaning we've attributed to the potential in the relationship and what has yet to be experienced, but also because we don't fully trust ourselves to be able to handle what will happen in the event that we finally do let go. And I explain a lot more of this in my secure program because that program is really designed for us to build this sustainability to get there. And create this sense of security where we are not determining our value or clinging to something longer than necessary. Everything at some point comes to an end. I don't know if y'all realize this, and this isn't to necessarily be create any kind of I don't know if morbid is the right description, but I think this is supposed to be a real thing that y'all need to consider. Everything comes to an end at some point. Every relationship that you have, even if you're married, is for a season. It's for a season. Because guess what you say at the altar? An altar, by the way, that was never designed to be looking as cute and cuddly. Altar is supposed to be a representation of, like, there's a lot of death that's about to go on here. But this altar, right, y'all through sickness and health, for rich, for poor, okay, till death do us part. I know I'm missing one. For better or worse, we're just rich or poor, sickness and health, till death do us part, right? Till death do us part. So even in the vows that you say to one another in marriage, it is acknowledging that this marriage that we are wanting to build, if we do it right, and if we do it healthily, and if we choose each other and choose to do the work on ourselves, to show up for us, can make the distance till one of us dies. And when one of us dies, guess what? The season has ended. So when we sometimes, what happens is because we move so far ahead and we move so far into the future, we forget the importance that this is for a season. And so what happens is we become very possessive over relationships and over people, titles and outcomes, money and energy, romance and love. We become very possessive. And when we become very possessive, we get blindsided by a lot more than what we what we feel we're not prepared for. So that's why I'm saying everything has a season. And so I have to operate relationships in a manner as if they're seasons. Not to say that we need to now leave early, self-sabotage. We're not talking about that. But move with an open hand towards relationships. And I think what this is exposing, Jason, not only are we still needing to process this loss because our bodies need to actually come into agreement with what we have logically acknowledged that is over, right? That's a process. Sure, it doesn't take forever, but it does need to come into agreement. I think what this is exposing is we were white knuckling a relationship here. We were white knuckling somebody, and it's difficult to let go, because if I let this go, that means so many other things are falling through. Whether that is a negative meaning towards myself, towards a relationship, towards future relationships and possibilities, it's hard for me to open my grip because I feel like I'm losing more than what I came in with. And we got to deal with that. So that might give you some insight on that. But how do we move forward from that? Well, that's where you do your part and book your session. Matter of fact, anybody who books a session while I'm on this live for the next 5 minutes, book your session and you'll get another one free on me. That's why this live is going. You book a session, you get one free. Because we got to put this into application so that way you can move forward. Why cry another night and ask yourself, what are you going to do? Why hold all the weight of these emotions one more night when you have an option and availability to be able to process this with somebody and be able to help you through it? Why? As my good friend Dr. Elijah would say, a problem with a solution is a choice. Why would you do it? Book your call. Book your call. You don't got to wait. And this is the place to actually make some progress and get moving. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to click off this live, go back to the life you're living, and keep asking the same questions that you literally just stepped into a live to hear thoughts and answers to, that was unexpected for you, by the way. But yet you got it anyway. You're going to go back to the life you're living, and it's going to be really challenging. You're going to have a lot of anxious thoughts, a lot of ruminating thoughts. And for some of you, it's going to feel like you can't get any rest. And sometimes we do that with solutions we have in our back pockets. Why? Why? So book your session. Link is in the bio. And for those of you who are ready to take those next steps, be sure to DM Secure. Start a conversation. We'll build from there. Also, get your free relational diagnostic. That is at the same link at the top of my bio. It's top of my page in the link. Okay. Because the first step to really becoming secure is being able to reveal these things that we're moving and living by. That gives us leverage when we're honest about it to move forward healthily. Okay. And I'm excited to get you guys on the calendar and on the book. Okay. I'm locked in. Come on. Come on. Come on. Stay locked in. All righty. So, again, book your session, top of the page. Click that link. You book that, you get a session free. I'll give you a 10-minute grace period because I really do got to go. So, at 5 p.m. Central Time, that offer closes. Take advantage of it. Okay. For those of you who are on YouTube, be sure to click the link in the description. Okay. Click the link in the description and you'll be able to book your call there. Like just out of character comments. Oh man, I didn't even see all that in the Instagram. So I appreciate y'all. Yeah, be sure to go click that link in the description to book your call, also to get your um, relational diagnostic. Okay. And be sure to pay attention to new content that is on the way, some stuff that'll be posted this evening. Again, I'm excited for this new series, but dating securely. Okay. As we go on a journey to walking you guys on how to date and do so securely in a healthy way. And you're going to get it from a man's point of view. Not too many of y'all are used to that. Um, and we're going to have a good time with it. Okay. So look out for those coming up. I don't necessarily know how often I'm going to be posting those. Expect a clip, maybe roughly right now, once or twice a week. Okay. I think that's a good beginning step to that. I got some stuff prepared to read to be released. So I'm excited for that. And if you can't do any of that, be sure to follow for more as we continue navigating through healing and doing relationships the right way. I really hope this conversation was helpful and beneficial to you and those of you who heard it. And until our next time and we meet again, tomorrow, 1 p.m. probably won't happen. I got some calls I got to take care of. So I will hit you guys up. We will follow up on the story with what time works best. I got to look at the calendar. Okay. But again, be sure to follow for more. Stay up to date. We will be live tomorrow. So lock in and we will get to it. Okay. I appreciate you guys so much. And until this time, next time, be easy and be breezy. Peace.